And Amnesty International says that 15 protesters arrested during the protests are still being held in prison 3 years after the historic movement. We joined now by the country director of Amnesty International, Nigeria, Isa Sanusi. Good to see you, Isa, and thanks for your time. 3 years is such a long time. And first, let's go back to some of the issues leading to the arrest and subsequent, imprisonment of these protesters. Would you say some of the issues have been addressed?
At the beginning, we had an improvement in the issues that led to NSAS. Unfortunately, recently we have been recording instances and reports and cases that show that gradually whatever gain from the NSAS protests is fizzling out.
Why do you think that is? Would you say that both the Nigerian authorities and, of course, the police themselves have not learned any lesson? Is that what's at play here? What exactly do you think?
Definitely. And what is happening, you captured it right when you mentioned the issue of not learning the lesson. In this country, we are so much used to impunity. We are so much used to lack of accountability, to the extent that some people think that they have a blank check, a blank license, a carte blanche to do whatever they like. And the people are not given the respect and the dignity they deserve as citizens. I believe the moment we begin to respect citizens as people, no matter their status, no matter whatever their station in life, I believe that is the beginning. But we are so used to lack of accountability to the extent that if you are poor, you can't get justice. So this is one of the reasons, and I believe that we are not learning the right lessons, and it is the earlier I can say the better. It is better because the young people of these days are not the young people of the 80s. They are not the young people of the 90s. The world has changed, the world has moved on. People can easily organize themselves online and take action on whatever is bothering them. Therefore, it is in the good interest of our country if our leaders learn and take action to make sure that whatever, people are really suffering in this country. And I believe that, at least people should be able, despite this suffering, to live with at least reasonable dignity without the fear of being harassed, without the fear of being extorted by anybody. So this is what the young people behind NSAS are talking about. Unfortunately, since 2020, the harassment that followed, the intimidation, the threats for people who promoted NSAS, unfortunately, gradually we are going back to where we were pre-2020.
Well, that's not too good a story because lessons and gains can be fretted away. But as you've observed, we've seen cases of manhandling and injustices being meted out on citizens by security agencies. But before we get to those who are in prison, what kind of corrective measures you think the government can put in place? And today we have a new Inspector General of Police, we have a new Chairman of the Police Service Commission, we have new people at the helms of affairs, as well as a new president.
Definitely, and I believe that this set of people that are in very big positions of responsibility have all the opportunity to make the difference. And the only way they can make the difference is to begin to take the people, to take the young people of this country very seriously. I believe that majority of the victims of SARS are young people, were young people. Majority of the victims of NSAS are people who are trying to make meaning out of their lives. And they are surrounded by hardship, by obstacles, by extortion, by difficulties. And when you have a situation whereby just because you are wearing a dreadlock, or you are wearing a ripped jeans, or just because you are a young man,
somehow.
Definitely, and because you are a young man and you are driving a flashy car, somebody think that you are a criminal. I believe this is very primitive, and we have to move away from that. So coming back to what you said, I will say that the new set of leaders we have must begin to take the issue of human rights very seriously. is a very serious matter, and it has to be given the seriousness it deserves. Because if not, people have the tendency, when you push them to the wall, they will push back. And we don't want to go there. We want a situation whereby law enforcement agents must be given a clear directive, not to violate human rights, not to carry out extortion, not to extrajudicially kill anybody, not to, arrest people without any reason, or molest them, or intimidate them, or harass them, or take money from them in whatever name. Let them be compliant with human rights. Nigeria is a signatory to so many international instruments that protect human rights. And that has given Nigeria a very good image internationally, because it is party to those instruments protecting human rights. And even our laws protected human rights. And even in 2017, the former president signed into law the anti-torture bill.
Right.
Unfortunately, up to now, that law has not been used to prosecute anybody, even though there are many instances where a good application of that law will ensure accountability for the rights of Nigerians.
Part of what Ken pointed out in that report is that those who were indicted, in the 2020 debacle, yet to be brought to book. I'd like you to address that on the one hand, and the fact that before this, commemoration today, we heard from the police in Lagos that, look, you can, have your free walks and all of that, but no gathering will be allowed. How does that stand side by side with the constitutionally guaranteed, especially in Section 40, that says you have the right to gather, you have the right to assemble, freely without let or hindrance? What does that tell you about the police that we still have today?
Well, I believe that we are still having a carryover of the colonial past of the policing in Nigeria. A situation whereby policing is more associated with heavy-handedness, is more associated with use of force, is more associated with intimidation. The world has moved on. We are now dealing with technology. We are now dealing with advancement in investigation techniques. So what we are going through, for the police to say that people cannot gather, I think it is unfortunate, and that shouldn't happen. The role of the police is very clear in terms of protest. Their duty is not to stop anybody. A protest is not a crime. It's not a dirty word, actually. And we have a situation whereby in this country, there are people who, when they were in opposition, they like protesters. But when they are in power, they feel that protesters should be killed. That is the irony. I believe that protest is a fundamental human right, because when you push someone to the wall, and when the person tried many avenues without getting justice, the person should be given the right to come out and express himself. But I don't think that we are getting it right in terms of the role of the police in managing.
And quickly here, Issa, let's see if we can close on this, because you raise a very fundamental issue. It could tilt. You could be on the other side. Just yesterday we were talking about the former EFCC boss, Magu, who's been held without trial. And again, once upon a time, we've also seen the same Sars, whose boss is still in custody till date. So for those who are in custody, let's quickly see if we can close on that. These are not big names, as you would say, of any kind of caliber of Nigerian. Do we know these names? Do we know these people, so that people can start, collectively ask for their whereabouts and their freedom?
Last year, around this time, we conducted an investigation. Amnesty International conducted an investigation around some of the jails in Nigeria, and we found that at least over 40 are still in detention because of Sars. And when we issued the outcome of our investigation, we also listed the names and the locations of these people. And fortunately, which is a very good news for us, weeks after our investigation was out, they were released. Some of them were released. Yes, some of them, especially those in Ibadan, were released. And
do we know where others are still being held?
Those that are still being held are mostly in Ikoyi prison and Kirikiri prison. And if you go to our website, I cannot bring all the names, but even for the sake of accountability, we have to list their names, all of them, with their surnames.
Are you hopeful they'll be out?
Definitely, that is what we are calling for, and we are hoping that the authorities will listen, because every Nigerian deserves to be treated with dignity.
Very good place to leave it. Isa Sanusi is Country Director, Amnesty International Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you for having me.